Get ready to take a flamethrower to the official narrative and learn what the elites don't want you to know. You're listening to The Tom Woods Show.
Hey everybody, Tom Woods here. It's episode 2671 of The Tom Woods Show. We have the great Clint Russell with us of Liberty Lockdown, a podcast I know you will enjoy when you check it out. I find myself agreeing with him so much when I look on Twitter. It's like, I mean, seriously, Clint, I look at your posts and I think I should have written that. Doggone it. He's right. I should have written that. Well, but once you've written it, it's
when
gone
Tom Woods
forever.
is agreeing with you, when Tom Woods is agreeing with you, you know you're on the right track. So I'm doing
that's
right.
very, very kind of you to say. Thank you. All right. So I actually drew a little bit for this episode from your Twitter feed because there's just so much great stuff on it. So first of all, I have Scott Horton coming on tomorrow, and this may come up with him too. But
wait, before we go there, can we just talk briefly about Scott Horton on Tucker Carlson?
I would be happy to talk about Scott Horton the whole episode, but yes, it's funny that you want to talk about this. It's funny you want to talk about this because I was on the Bob Murphy show, and Bob wanted to talk about Scott's appearance on Tucker Carlson. Now, when I talked to Scott about this, and I said, "Look, Scott, I was talking to Bob about your appearance, and we were both marveling at how you could talk for 3 hours and have all this knowledge." And his answer was, "Look, I'm very flattered that you guys were impressed, but the point of my doing that for 3 hours was not for you guys to say, hey, look, it's amazing Scott remembers all this stuff. It's so that you'll say, hey, Bill Clinton really was evil." So what do you want to say about Scott and Tucker Carlson?
Yeah, well, I mean, both. I mean, he is an unbelievable encyclopedia, and it's totally remarkable that he's capable of doing what he's doing. But also, I just think he's one of the most unbelievably well-researched, gifted, backed up arguers for our cause. And I'm so grateful that he exists. I mean, Dave is a product of him. I'm a product of him. One of my most viral clips ever was me giving this 3-minute primer on Russia in the 90s, which I didn't know a damn thing about until I read Scott's book.
Yeah.
But I go on Timcast and I'm talking in front of 500,000 people and I lay it out and people love it. And it's just like, this is all Scott. So it was just amazing to see him on Tucker Carlson, a guy who I think is like the last vestige of anything corporate media valuable. And for him to do that and to do such a great job with it, and then to have another buddy of mine, Daryl Cooper, follow him up, it was just like, it's amazing. It's amazing to watch. The paradigm is a shifting.
No doubt about it. But also for me, part of the paradigm shifting is that Scott Horton is no longer just our private tutor in our little world, but that he's now, gotten to this status where he'll Candace will invite him on and Tucker will invite him on. And now this has become sort of normal. And
I know, it's crazy.
I love that I'm living in this world. I love that I'm living in this world. And she's, boy.
Me too. I mean,
go ahead.
In the past, it was like Scott's biggest platform was probably yours or Dave's. And now he's like on the biggest platforms in the world. I mean, the only one he hasn't touched yet is Rogan. And I feel like it's kind of inevitable at this point that that'll happen at some point in the next year or two. I just think he's undeniable. And I think that his arguments, the case he makes is undeniable. So I'm just I guess I'm surrounded by a lot of reasons for pessimism, which I think we're going to get into in a second here. Yeah. And I just wanted to start with a positive note of like, Scott Horton gives me hope. And that's a weird thing to say because Scott talks about a lot of dire stuff too. But the fact that he's able to get that message to so many people gives me a lot of hope.
Yeah, me too, absolutely. And I think he's gaining a lot of momentum right now. So I think he's got a pretty good shot of Rogan and beyond. Now, I know it doesn't matter to 99% of the public, but I'm at the Mises Institute this week teaching at the Mises University Summer Program. So I'm at an Airbnb. So, this is not the background of somebody who's done 2,600 episodes, but, it's a nice little place. And since at the last minute my wife couldn't come, I have this 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, beautiful little palace here, all to myself. And these poor people had no idea that their home was going to be soiled by me recording the Tom Woods Show here. But all right, so
Michael Malice is going to clip that.
Soiled it. All right, so let's see. What do I want to talk about? Oh, yeah. So here's some. Yeah, so I started mentioning Scott, and that's how we got talking about Scott. And it's this. Maybe you've seen over the past couple of days the president interacting with or promoting Mark Levin. Now, we all know Mark Levin's a terrible neocon. He is the neocon's idea of an intellectual, which is not impressive. And so one thing we saw was the president saying, look, Mark Levin has a new book out, which nobody cares about Mark Levin's new book. And I know it'll sell a lot of copies, but, okay. But I mean, like, nobody you and I know would care about reading a book like that. And then he had this other tweet, go watch Mark Levin on Fox News right now. Well, what was Mark Levin doing on Fox News? Telling everybody to knock it off about Epstein. And it so happens that before that, Levin had been saying the same thing, knock it off. And this is the same guy who was gung-ho about abandoning negotiation with Iran and bombing. And then when he thought Trump might be getting wobbly, he got very impatient. And he was a never-Trumper from the beginning anyway. Then he was happy about the bombing, then not very happy that we didn't finish the job. I mean, this is a guy who, if you breathe the wrong way, he's going to denounce you. So instead of telling us this creep to go jump in a lake, it looks like Trump is just bending over backwards to accommodate him. I mean, you're observing this too?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, first off, you're absolutely right. No one cares about Mark Levin or his book, and that even includes after the president of the United States tells his immense following to go, buy his book or listen to him. Look, I don't think it's about sucking up to Mark Levin. I think it's about Mark Levin sucking up to Trump and Trump being surrounded or hearing a lot of negative press because he's doing a lot of really bad things. And Mark Levin is the one guy that's going to the mat for him. So he's like, I'm going to boost this guy in hopes that other people, do the same. I just think that it's a totally different world, and Trump has not evolved. I mean, he's still, just consider what we're even talking about. He's talking about a terrestrial radio guy, Mark Levin, and a guy who's, I think he's on like the, Saturday Red Eye, or maybe, I don't even know what his time slot is. He's like a weekend guy that no one watches. His ratings are in the toilet. But this is what Trump is locked in on, because everywhere that actually gets listeners or viewers, you have very critical things being said about the Trump administration, particularly over the past 2 months, because the bombing campaign against Iran was an obvious break of his campaign promises. And then the incredible cover-up of the Epstein case was an incredible break of one of the top campaign promises that were coming not just from him, but from like all of his underlings, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, and not even campaign promises, but promises after they were in power. You have Pam Bondi saying she's got the list on her desk, she's reviewing it, and then the list doesn't exist. And you have the phase 1 with much more phases to come, and incredible disclosures and investigations and indictments and prosecutions that are all on the back burner, but they're coming forward, and none of that happens either.
Oh, no, hold on. You're selling yourself short, because there was a great post by Clint Russell on Twitter about this. You talked about phase 1. Phase 2 is shut the blankety blank up about it. That's phase 2.
It's incredible. And I think that, Mark Levin is just like one of the only people who's willing to have no morality whatsoever and still applaud this clown show. And I think that that's actually a reason for optimism or hope, is that, in the past, it would have been 90+% of the right-wing media sphere would be still carrying water for Donald Trump. And best I can tell, he's losing a lot of people. I mean, you've got, I can't help but notice the correlation as to who's really loving what Trump has done over the past 2 months. And it's like Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, Laura Loomer, who loves everything he does, no matter what he does. It's in my opinion, it's largely the Israel First crowd. It's the Make Israel Great Again crowd, and the Make America Great Again, or the America First crowd, is furious. And I consider myself in that camp, is the America First camp. So it's very disappointing. I came in with, I wouldn't say like outrageously high optimism, but I thought that if there was a chance that Trump could be what his supporters perceived him to be, this anvil to destroy the regime, to destroy the deep state, if there was ever a chance that could actually happen, it would be now. And unfortunately, Tom Woods was right. We voted and we got John McCain anyways.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, again, what were you supposed to do in this situation? You know, like
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry, but it's going to be one or the other. That's a fact. And the other people are coming for my kids. You know, so I like, what am I supposed to do? You got to just hope for the best, and you know, then the worst happens. But what else am I going to do? I could move. I could expatriate, I suppose. But geez, why should I have to? This is my country. Why should I have to leave?
Yeah, well, no, I'm in full agreement. And as you know, I came to the same conclusion, and I did, begrudgingly vote for Trump. And I still don't regret it. I still think that, like, even if you perceive it from a red pilling opportunity, imagine had he lost, first off, Kamala Harris would be doing all of, if not more of the bad things that Donald Trump is doing. But also then you would have these 70 plus million supporters of Donald Trump that are diehard, that absolutely believe, one, that the election was again stolen, but two, that like what could have been. You know, we had this opportunity. We had this guy who was an outsider, and he was going to do all these great things. And you idiot libertarians, you stayed on the sideline, and now we get Kamala Harris and communism and World War III.
Right.
And it's like, well, now we get to see. You got your guy. Where are the prosecutions? Where's the perp walk for Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton? Now I get to point at them and say, all right, I gave you my support. Now what's up? And as of now, not a whole lot.
Yeah, and you know, there are people who are just diehard supporters who are going to stick their fingers in their ears, but it's been impressive to me how many people are saying, no, sorry, like something's going to have to change here. I mean, there's no reason Trump should be losing Matt Walsh, you know? Like that's a dumb, unforced error. There's no reason Matt Walsh should feel alienated from him. There's no reason that a Turning Point USA event should be booing what are perceived to be Trumpian positions. I mean, I think it was, in fact, I probably got this from your, I do read other things other than your Twitter feed, but I think you had a clip from, I think it was Megyn Kelly saying, how many of you are satisfied with the state of the Epstein case? And it was all booze. It was all booze. This is Turning Point USA.
Absolutely amazing.
That's Trump's base.
I know, exactly. I mean, you don't get more Trump space than that. And she was alleging that it was Mossad, that Epstein was connected to Mossad. And it's like, these are just things that you just couldn't say at a major conservative event in any other time in my life. Like, you just couldn't do it. And I think that Tucker Carlson, as much as I love to give Scott and Dave all the credit for all the progress we've made in the media landscape, or Rogan for that matter, I think Tucker Carlson being fired from Fox News and succeeding on a level that was even higher than he was doing when he was on TV basically greenlit all of these people to start to take risks, to tell the truth, to actually deliver an honest take, even when they know that it's going to jeopardize their relationship with the White House. It's going to jeopardize their relationship with the TPUSAs of the world. That's just not the way these things are shaking out anymore. The audience is actually dictating what these people are willing to say. Not what they will say, but what they're willing to say, because they know that they have immense success in front of them if they'll just be honest about the issues that people care about most. And if you lie about Epstein, which a hell of a lot of people still are, you're going to lose a lot of people. And I think that, as you pointed out, wild cheers at TPUSA. And then you have Dave Smith going into the Lion's Den and winning that debate again, of course, against Josh Hammer. And this is in front of a TPUSA audience. I mean, it's just remarkable. The shift is really palpable at this point.
Hey, everybody, I want to introduce you to my friend whose IQ I would estimate as being somewhere in the neighborhood of about 728. And he's the kind of guy you want to have in your corner. I'm talking about the great Matthew Sercely, a tax attorney who helps liberty-minded folks just like you keep more of your money and stay out of trouble with the IRS. This guy has the same philosophy you do. So he wants to keep every dollar he can out of the hands of the IRS. And he'll use every one of his 728 IQ points to save you every last dollar possible. And by the way, yes, I said attorney, not CPA, which means that your conversations with him are protected by attorney-client privilege. That's a very big deal. You cannot get that kind of protection from your accountant. Another thing about Matt, he's fully one of us. He's been on my cruise. He's been at my murder mystery parties. He's listened to the Tom Woods Show since episode 3. He's a real OG, so you won't have to explain yourself or why you have the feelings about the IRS or taxation that you do. And he doesn't just do taxes. He builds strategies to legally starve the state. Entity structuring, income shifting, advanced planning. This is war by spreadsheet. If you're running a business or even thinking about one, you need someone like Matthew in your corner. He knows how to legally reduce your tax burden, structure your business the right way, and avoid trouble while keeping every dollar you're entitled to. Go to agoristtaxadvice.com/woods. That's AGORIST taxadvice.com/woods and grab your free Agorist Tax Toolkit. It's full of powerful tools and templates you can use to get your business in order, track your expenses, and reduce how much the IRS takes from you without crossing any lines. Again, that's agoristtaxadvice.com/woods. Take the first step to keeping what's yours. So if I were an Israel firster, I would go on a charm offensive right now. I would be saying, all right, look, I'm going to admit that there are people on my side of things who have been arrogant in the way they've treated the United States and Americans. They've had an entitlement mentality, and I think to some degree, the relationship that the U.S. has had with Israel has been one that's involved a lot of sacrifice on the part of Americans and not so much on the part of Israel. I freely acknowledge all that, and I need you all to understand that I get that. At the same time, I need you to understand that there are other battles in the world, and Islam is a big problem, and Israel is an outpost of the Western civilization. Whatever you want to say, you say that. Instead, it's been, you're woke right, or you're an anti-Semite, or whatever. I mean, though it's like the worst Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez impression in the world that they're trying to do. And that strategy is not designed to get people back on board or change their minds. That is going to make them dig in their heels. And that's what Tucker was getting at when he spoke at Turning Point USA, and he said, that kind of argumentation is what I voted against, where instead of addressing the merits of my claims, it's you're a this, you're a that, and you're going to scream at me. I voted against that. So I'm not going to be dragged into that kind of argument. I'm not responding to that kind of argument. We're going to argue on the merits. So this whole, the way the neocons have responded to this is like the worst PR blitz you could possibly imagine. What a real PR firm would do in this situation, and they have done the opposite at every step.
Well, in their defense, they had a game plan or a playbook, so to speak, that worked really well for a long time and like decades. And I just think that they're slow to evolve.
Yeah.
But, this was, and honestly, like the charm offensive that you're describing was kind of what it's not really a charm offensive as much as it's a fear-mongering defensive where they're saying, don't look at us, look at the Muslims, be concerned about them. Like that's what I lived through and you did too from 2001 through, 12, 15, somewhere in that range. It was a full decade of that being the distraction and the push. And we were fighting wars on behalf of Israel as a consequence of that. So I just think that at the end of the day, like, and I don't want to take any credit away from Dave Smith, who I love dearly, but the reason he trounces everybody is because he's right about these things and they don't have a good defense. Like that's the real problem. They don't have a defense to make. Why is there any value in us giving? I mean, people always bring up the 3 billion figure annually to Israel since its inception, but like that's not the real number. We're giving way more when it comes to defense and really offensive weaponry. Why is that to our benefit? Why? Like what are they actually giving us? You ask people this. I do, on a much smaller level. I've done lots of debates about this issue too. They don't have an answer. They just go, well, the Muslims are so dangerous. So what are you doing? Why are you talking about us? It's like, okay, I'm not super fond of Islam either, but that's not the point that we're making here. Why is the relationship with Israel so necessary? Why is it so vital? We're $37 trillion in debt, $1 trillion in interest annually. We've lost more soldiers to suicide from the war on terror than we lost in the war on terror. All of those wars were predicated off of lies that were pushed by both the neoconservatives as well as Israeli intelligence. Tell me why you are our top ally. Because as best I can tell, that is betrayal on a very, very deep level, on a foundational level. And yet people still will argue, this is our top ally. We must stand with them. You get Ted Cruz and these other people. And so what are they left with now? Like all they have now is this I can't even say the word.
Oh, dispensationalism.
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
Argument. And he can't even make that. So I just think there is no argument for it. And I'm still waiting for a good one. I just don't think it exists.
I couldn't believe Ted Cruz was on with Tucker, and Tucker said, "Where does the Bible say that?" And he says, "I don't know. It's somewhere." And it reminded me of Reverend Lovejoy. Did you watch The Simpsons ever?
Oh,
Have you ever watched The Simpsons? Yeah. So Reverend Lovejoy is the local pastor, and I think Lisa asks him at one point, "Where does it say that in the Bible?" And he says something like, "Somewhere in the back." And I was just thinking about that. Ted Cruz, this is like fundamental to his whole argument. He's going, "I don't know, it's in there. I mean, you can flip through and find." Like this is like your most important thing. Like he said that he went into the U.S. Senate to be the great champion of Israel in the U.S. Senate, which is a very odd thing for a U.S. senator to say. You know how sometimes Clint, in our day and age, we hear people say, normalize such and such crazy thing. Normalize such a... I think we need to denormalize crazy remarks like that, because they're all the time. They're happening, or I mean, like occasionally you'll even hear somebody kind of suggest we're the second best country in the world. What? Like, that you just can't.
I mean, these are people at the highest levels of the GOP, and some of them at the highest levels of Trump's cabinet. Sometimes Trump says stuff like that. I mean, it's so counter. And I think it wouldn't be so jarring if it wasn't like, we are the America First movement. It's like, you just can't have both of these things being said at the same time. We're going to prioritize America first, and also we are the second greatest country on earth. It's like, oh, well, you're a liar. Like,
I know.
Like, you don't have to be a genius to catch on to that. And I think people are just sick of it. And I'm considering actually running against Randy Fine, who's a congressional.
Oh, I know. I went to school with him.
Oh God, I gotta get some intel on this guy then. But I mean,
wish
his whole priority is Israel.
To give you, but we both wrote for the same student publication. But he was a couple years younger than I was. I never really got to know him. But we needed new blood. So when he walked through the door, I thought, oh, well, great, we got a new guy. I didn't know.
Yeah, well,
how was I to know? He was just a kid. But
I mean, I don't hold you responsible for what he's done.
I appreciate that. I would have done better if I had known. But Randy, you don't need to tell, because he's his district, I think, is Brevard County, which is right next to mine.
Exactly.
I think he's out in Melbourne, like that area, which is where I go to the beach. By the way, the beach is very nice, just not the U.S. representative, unfortunately. But
exactly.
But on the other hand, Clint, now you've seen the polling data. You know that the favorability, let's say Israel's favorability among the American public is on the decline, but particularly among younger people, even Republicans, like young Republicans, 50% of them say we're not sympathetic anymore, enough's enough. Now, that's, if the children really are our future, then that means they better enjoy this while they can, because it's not going to last.
No kidding. No, the clock is ticking. And note that all of the criticism that I levied towards Israel in that rant, I didn't mention Gaza once. I didn't mention the Palestinians one time. Like, all I'm arguing is based off of actual just American interests. Make a claim as to why they're our top ally. Then you get into the moral argumentation over what they're actually doing to the Gazans. And it's like, oh, well then how, as a Christian, are you arguing in defense of this relationship? And I just think that on every front, it's just not a winning argument. And as a consequence, they have relied on slurs and labels of anti-Semitism and bigotry and everything else, and that's also lost its appeal or its effectiveness. And we're just done. I just think people are just done with it. Like, you're going to have to win this argument on its merits, and you don't have the merits to do so. Sorry,
if they were going to be
truth.
honest, they would say it's not really an ally to ally relationship. It's one side is helping the other. Like, that's what it is. We don't need Israel's help. With what? And so what is this all about? So it's not they're an ally. Yeah, of course they'll cheer for us and vote our way in the UN or something in exchange for hard cash. But I don't think that's really what we need. And
well, then no, let's connect that dot. This is why people take such interest in the Epstein case, is that when there is no rational argument to be found as to why we seem to be subservient to Israel, you start to look for rational explanations that are hidden. And I think that the answer is that a lot of people believe, and probably rightfully so, that there is a massive blackmail operation being run against the American government. So much so that you have people campaigning on delivering justice and truth on this very issue. And then as soon as they get into power, they pivot and gaslight you and call you a lunatic for ever having expected there to be disclosures or justice or prosecutions. So I think that's really what we're up against, is that this is not a secret. This is how, Israeli intelligence or Mossad operate. They build compromise cases, and CIA does the same. So whoever's behind it, whoever's responsible for it, I think people are just coming to the sad realization that our representation is not for us. Like, we do not have representation.
Well, and you can
aside
get
from
that.
Thomas Massie.
You can calculate that just by looking at what is the typical polling data tell you about where the American public stands on some foreign policy issue, and then poll the U.S. Congress. Why is it so wildly off kilter? Like, it's not even close. Not even close to where the American public is. There's your vaunted
you just
democracy.
Saw that vote? Yeah, you just saw that vote that happened.
Yeah.
Thanks to Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie. It happened, I think it was on Monday, or maybe it was over the weekend. But regardless, she put together a floor vote, and God bless her, because it takes major courage to do this. But it was a vote to reduce aid to Israel by $500 million. So it's not even cutting it to zero, which we ought to be doing. It's just a reduction. And it was her and Thomas Massie. Those are the only members of the GOP that voted in the affirmative for that motion. But then if you juxtapose that with public sentiment, and it's like, I think there was a poll that happened right before the November elections. And it was, if someone, wants us to be in perfect lockstep with Israel, does that make you more or less likely to support them? And it was 40% or 48% less likely, 47% more likely. So it's an even split, but yet we had 98.5% of Congress voting to maintain aid at these levels, despite what's happening in Gaza. I mean, it's remarkable, the stranglehold that they have over Congress, and people you cannot ignore it any longer. It's so obvious. So that's what's happening.
Let me once again refer to another Clint Russell post, because it's relevant to this. You have I like. We all know what Occam's razor is, right? Basically, in a nutshell, if I were to do Occam's razor to Occam's razor, it would be to say that all things equal, the simplest explanation is preferable. The one that involves that's most parsimonious. It requires the fewest steps, the fewer moving parts. Well, we have Russell's razor, according to you, and I want you to tell me what's the principle behind Russell's razor, and then let's look at a few examples.
Well, I haven't read the tweet. What did I say again?
It was, Russell's razor is, if the government attempts to cover up or prevent independent inquiry into any major event, it's because they were involved. So maybe Epstein would be, for example, a case of that. That maybe this is the reason. I hate to be so obvious about it, but I mean.
Yeah, well, and it's a lot. It's a lot more than just Epstein. I mean, if you look at if you look at J6, there's a lot of obfuscation and cover-ups with that. If you look at COVID's origin, if you look at OKC bombing, if you look at 9/11, if you look at I got a lot that I can rattle off. If you look at the JFK, RFK, MLK assassinations, there's a lot of stories that we still don't have the truth about, and not even really an attempt at the truth. You get these heavily redacted disclosures that give us hardly anything new. My conclusion with any of those issues at this point is that, look, you've had decades. If you can't give me an honest assessment as to what transpired, I'm just going to assume you're covering up for yourself. And I think that's really Occam's razor here, or as I called it, Russell's razor, just being egotistical about it, is that if you're lying to me for decades, I'm going to assume there's a reason. And that reason is because you did it.
Hey, gang, tell me if this sounds familiar. They tell you to max out your 401k and IRA and then make you beg for permission to use your own money. They tell you to defer paying your taxes by saving in a 401k or IRA because you'll retire in a lower tax bracket. But if that were true, why are so many retirees in the highest tax bracket of their lives? It's time to get the truth and discover a better way to grow and protect your money. Bank on Yourself is the proven retirement plan alternative banks and Wall Street desperately hope you never hear about. It gives you guaranteed, predictable growth and retirement income with no luck, skill, or guesswork required. Your plan doesn't go backward when the markets tumble. Your principal and growth are locked in. You're in control. You get access to your money for emergencies and opportunities with no questions asked. There are no government penalties or restrictions on how much or when you can take it. And when you use your money, it keeps growing like you never touched it. Try doing that with a 401k or IRA. And perhaps the best reason of all, you'll know the minimum guaranteed value of your retirement savings on the day you plan to tap into them, and at every point along the way. You can get a free report with all the details on how the Bank on Yourself strategy adds guarantees, predictability, and control to your financial plan. Just go to bankonyourself.com/woods. That's bankonyourself.com/woods. Yeah, and that's why in a way it's kind of I don't know, demoralizing. I don't know what the word is, but when people say, well, we need to have a full investigation of this, the kinds of things that we're looking into are so serious and, if true, incredibly pervasive that I'm pretty sure anybody who's capable of carrying them out is capable of covering their tracks also. You know, I mean, it would be great if we could just appoint, like in a Hollywood movie, some fearless investigator who uncovers all, but nothing ever gets uncovered, really. You know, like we know they're all up to no good, and yet basically nothing ever gets uncovered. There has to be a reason for that.
Well, I mean, and consider this. What you're describing is basically a special prosecutor. And it's like John Durham had that power, and he had years to get to the bottom of the Russian collusion case. And then at the end of it, he's like, yeah, nothing happened. And it's like, wait. So you investigated this story for years. You spent tens of millions of taxpayer dollars to try and get us the truth as to whether or not the president of the United States had committed treason and allied himself with Vladimir Putin in Russia. And you never got to the origin of the lie? Like, are you effing kidding me? Like, you never got to the origin of who? All right, so you had all these years to investigate this. You come up with, it didn't happen. Okay, then what did, John? Like, tell me exactly how this began. And they didn't give us an answer. I mean, just think about how crazy it is. And then think about this. John Ratcliffe had DNI position, which was Tulsi Gabbard, the current DNI's position in 2020 under Donald Trump. He didn't give us the answer on this. He didn't give Donald Trump the story of who tried to coup you. Like, is there especially with a narcissist or an ego guy like Donald Trump, is there anything that would like put you more in his good graces if you're like, hey, I know exactly how this happened? He was the head of DNI. He had all access to all the same information that Tulsi Gabbard has today. He didn't deliver that. And then what does Trump do? In his second term, he gives John Ratcliffe a promotion from head of DNI to head of the CIA. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Why does that happen? I don't understand it.
Well, the whole, on the subject of the DNI, I think you and I have the same frustration. Now, it's great that Tulsi Gabbard is saying that Obama and his national security team subverted the will of the American people by carrying out what was basically a years-long coup against Donald Trump. I mean, that's better than anybody else in her position would have said. I get that. But why is it that, quote-unquote, our side is usually content to say cheeky things, and then they're just used to being praised for that because no one even does that? You know, no one on our side even does that. So we get somebody saying something, and it's, oh my goodness, we're so thrilled, which means then they feel like, okay, well, I guess I don't do anything further. Everybody's already happy. No, if this happened, then the real question has to be, what happens now? The left spent years and years telling us nobody is above the law when, nothing could be further from the truth than that, but nobody's above the law. That's why we have to go after Trump for these ridiculous charges that are meaningless. But when Obama orchestrates, again, a silent coup against the president, well, yeah, remember that thing you said about nobody's above the law? I think would apply to this guy. If nothing happens to any of these people, then I guess I don't even care what Tulsi Gabbard has to say. Why would I?
I know, and that is my episode of Liberty Lockdown that came out yesterday. I break all this down, and I'm like, that's the same tragic conclusion I come to, is that if you know, which, I've known this since 2019. I was pretty convinced that this is exactly what had transpired. And we're now, 6 going on 7 years later. And the best we can get is basically the director of national intelligence coming out and telling me what Dave Smith and Robbie the Fire told me in 2019. Is like, wow, you guys are really behind. What is happening? How could you be this behind? But then to expect me to believe that they're actually going to bring prosecutions. And keep in mind, Tulsi Gabbard, during these interviews that she's been giving about this topic, they keep asking her, Maria Bartiromo on Fox News, she asks her, she's like, so what's next? Are we going to see prosecutions? And Tulsi Gabbard, ums and ahs, but she basically says, look, I'm going to push as hard as I can, but this comes down to the AG. This comes down to Pam Bondi and the FBI.
Oh boy. The good point.
She's like, and then okay, so maybe Tulsi's sincere. Maybe Tulsi really wants justice. I take her at her word. I've met her a couple times. Maybe she's the real deal. I don't know. But AG Bondi just covered up for the Epstein stuff. So why do I have any faith that she's going to have the courage to go after Obama or Hillary Clinton for that matter? Or this is the real scary thing. People always, look at the figureheads and they go Obama and Hillary Clinton are the most powerful. We're talking about Clapper and Brennan. We're talking about the heads of the CIA and the FBI that you don't get any more high up and dangerous than those dudes. So you got to be willing to risk everything. You have to be willing to risk it all if you want to actually purge the deep state for real. And I just don't think any of these people are sincere enough. Even if they want to, they don't have the courage to do it. That's my unfortunate assessment.
And yet, at this particular moment, it would take something of that scale to get people's minds off Epstein, even temporarily. Because they're obviously not going to get satisfaction on Epstein. But even some of the people digging in their heels on Epstein, if they saw actual arrests on this scale, which would be unprecedented in American history, they might be willing to say, we'll give you an extra year on Epstein. How's that? But yet they still won't do it. Our friend Dan, who has done a lot of great video work for me, has a post from a couple of hours ago where he says that the new rules of the Make America Great Again movement are as follows. He's got a bunch of them. And I'm going to read, there are 10 of them.
Oh, I saw this.
Oh, did you? I'm going to read them out loud. Mark Levin, greater than Tucker Carlson. Lindsey Graham, greater than Thomas Massie. Everything else, greater than Epstein files. Trust the experts, greater than doing research. Operation Warp Speed for babies, greater than Fauci trials. Big Beautiful Spending Bill, greater than Doge. Bombing Iran, greater than I just want the dying to stop. Bombing Gaza, greater than I just want the dying to stop. Funding Ukraine's war, greater than not funding Ukraine's war. And complying, greater than thinking. Jeez, Clint.
Ooh.
I mean, that is, he's giving you a run for your money with that post.
That was an anvil of a 10th bullet point, and I'm very fond of 10 bullet point tweets. So shout out to Dan Smott's system is down. I'll give him a plug.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. No, look, he's right. And I think that's the one advantage of, even though I voted for Trump, I'm not a sycophant. I'm not a water carrier.
No, why would you be? When did this become a requirement?
I have no idea. Why, but it seems like a lot of people are. So, but I remember my audience got very upset with me after I just, finally decided, even though I gave a very lengthy explanation as to why. And I also said, don't follow me into this battle. To do whatever you feel is, is calling you to do. But, I just said that, look, I'm going to, regardless of what I decide on November 5th, I'm going to tell the truth about this. And Dan's exactly right. All of the best promises, not all, the vast majority of the best promises or the most hopeful things that I could have dreamt we might get from Trump round 2 is just, it's a complete inversion. And, the one that really pisses me off, and you'll be surprised by this because like COVID justice, given the name of my show being Liberty Lockdown, you'd be like, COVID justice is what you really want. Well, like, yeah, that's what I would like most, but like I didn't have real expectations that would happen.
No,
but what I did have a real expectation of is that he would end the war in Ukraine. I really thought that was sincere and it was doable. And as of now, we're shipping them more weapons, and there's a 60-day clock. And the last time he put a clock on a foreign nation, the Israelis ended up taking out a third of their leadership in an overnight secretive strike. Like, I'm very, very disappointed about the geopolitical moves from Trump.
Yeah. Well, also, if you asked a lot of the Trump supporters, let's say November 1st, you asked them, for those of you who have heard of both people, which one do you prefer, Thomas Massie or Lindsey Graham? Almost everybody would have said Thomas Massie. They would have agreed on the Epstein files. They wouldn't have said, let's keep pushing the vaxes on 6-month-olds. They wouldn't have said, let's keep funding the war in Ukraine. They wouldn't have said any of these things. Now, half of them feel compelled to defend these things for some reason, but they wouldn't have. They wouldn't have. They're defending them now because they, for some reason, think they're obligated to. But you're not.
Well,
that's what I liked about Dave's appearance recently in that debate at TPUSA, because Josh Hammer was trying to attack him on the grounds that this guy has criticized Trump. And Dave responded correctly and got cheers for saying, I'm a free American. I'll say anything I want to about anybody. What's this creep's problem? I added that part.
Well, and the real anvil part of that line was, he just covered up a child trafficking ring.
Yes.
So I'm going to criticize him, and the crowd goes wild.
Yeah.
It's like, you the
old tricks don't
you're not
work
going to be
anymore.
able to cover this up.
Yeah, the old tricks just don't work anymore, or they don't work as well as they used to. And so it is. It's fractured, this thing right now. I think it'd be interesting to be J.D. Vance right about now, because I think J.D. Vance is obviously we can see he has a totally different temperament from Trump. He's much more soft-spoken, laid back, a little, more academic. I'm sure he reads more, a little bit nerdier.
More than zero.
What did you say?
I said more than zero. Yeah, I'm sure he reads more.
More than zero, right? So, you got to figure. And I think he's sincere that he changed his view of Trump. I think that part is sincere. But I think there's a part of him, even though he has plenty of his own problems, I think there's a part of him saying, oh my gosh, I have 3.5 more years of this to endure, and somehow come out the other side as the heir apparent, as somebody people would want to vote for. We'll see.
I think he's in a really tough spot. Because this is the tragic part about it, is like all they had to do was deliver on their campaign promises.
Yeah.
I know that sounds like such a simplistic
no, but really it wasn't brain surgery.
No, I know. It's like, if you deliver, you stay in power. Like, not just you, Trump, but I'm talking GOP stays in power. J.D. Vance is the president for the next 8 years. Like, if you guys defend the Constitution, bring home our troops, end the wars, give us COVID justice, purge the deep state, you will have like lifetime support from us. And you're not doing any of it. J.D. Vance may or may not be the real deal. I've done a deep dive on, Palantir, Peter Thiel, his relationship. And I'm nervous. But I'm still cautiously optimistic because he has said a lot of the right things. So we'll see what that becomes. But I think he's going to have to do something to distance himself from this. As the vice president of the United States, I don't know how you can do that. I don't know how you can actually distance yourself from the maneuvers of the president, particularly given that, Trump is his entire worldview is based off of, are you loyal or are you a traitor, essentially? So I think that J.D. Vance is just going to have to swallow all of the nonsense. And then when he runs in 28, just come out and say, I disagreed with a whole bunch of what went down. I don't know how else he's going to handle it.
Well, every once in a while, so he follows 1,100 or so people on Twitter, and I'm one of them. So every once in a while, I post something saying, hey, JD, look, we got kind of a train wreck going on over here. Is there anything maybe you could do about it behind the scenes? Or are you sure this is what you want your name on? Like sometimes I figure, hey, if there's a chance I have his ear, I want to use it, right?
For sure. For sure.
And the thing is, did you ever read or see the movie Hillbilly Elegy? His book?
I did. Good movie.
Yeah, good movie. I mean, I read the book because I had him on my show, and the book was great. And then I saw, and so much of what I wanted to be in the movie was in the movie from the book. You know, it wasn't one of these, they left out all the great parts. No, they put in the great parts into the movie. And I had a night where I had my older daughters and we watched it because they didn't know anything about him. And I thought this will be entertaining. And boy, did they love that grandmother with the foul mouth, but who, you know, she was going to help JD if it was the last thing she did. And then incidentally, at the very end of the movie, they show you footage of the real people, not the actors. And the grandma looked exactly like Glenn Close. Like they got her perfect. But I mean, like, he has a great American story, you know, and I would love to see something good come of it. And not have him, you know, get sucked into, you know, heaven knows what.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's our hope with all of these people, you know, and I get a lot of flack from my audience for being hopeful or optimistic about anything, even though I haven't
you can't be
sounded
hopeful or optimistic ever. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. People just really hate that.
Yeah.
But like, I need some heroic figures, you know, like I'm not asking for a hero to save me. I'm just saying, like, we need courageous, heroic figures to rise up out of this morass of corrupt terribleness, awfulness. You know, this is why I'm such a, you know, loud and ardent supporter of Thomas Massie, is because it's like, I found my guy. You know, like he's the Ron Paul torchbearer in the House, and we need a hell of a lot more like him. So, anyways, the point that I'm getting at is, like, I hope that JD Vance is that. I do, but it's just so challenging because once you actually deep dive and you're like, he got into the Senate because of Peter Thiel, and Peter Thiel, who's a espoused libertarian, has all this weird stuff that he's doing too. And you're like, it's tough, man. I want to be hopeful. I want JD Vance to be the real deal. I just don't know.
And, you know, you mentioned Thomas Massie. I got to just say, it frustrates me so much to see all these brainwashed people who think Thomas Massie, who's their only champion, is their enemy. And I think to myself, you know, you have access to the internet, and you've never seen Thomas Massie question somebody in the House, because it's epic. I mean, he takes on issues that most of your heroes never even talk about, and he's articulate and devastating on all of them. And he'll take, you know, some of these people, they love to see Democrats get skewered. Massie skewers Democrats like nobody's business, and they've never even seen any footage of. I think Dan, you know, I would actually consider, I would chip in. Maybe I'd fund the whole thing if Dan Smots, who runs Goulash Media, who's done a lot of great video work for me. We need like a 2-minute highlight reel of Thomas Massie to fight back with, you know, because he's got some good. Of course, we'd have to research it, but we could crowdsource that of what belongs in there. But also have it be, and by the way, he built this house and he did all these other things with his bare hands. So and you know, he won awards at MIT when he was young, and I mean, the guy is as impressive as you could possibly be. Imagine having a son like Thomas Massie and saying, "You're a big disappointment." You know what?
No.
So I'd love to see that come out.
Yeah, it would be an honor to have Thomas Massie as a son for sure. I mean, he's like the Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, or whatever of our day. I mean, he's just a real polymath, incredibly gifted, and you pair that with, you know, the kind of willingness to be hated that so few people in DC are capable of. So few people
have that. Yeah,
yeah, and that's the hallmark of libertarians. Like, we're willing to be hated. So
yeah, and we are.
I'm just
and we are.
And we are. we are hated indeed.
But honestly, it is a very dangerous quality for somebody seeking power to be desperate to be loved. That's a dangerous quality, because you'll do anything to get that love, and you got to be willing to take it. All right, Clint Russell is the host of Liberty Lockdown, which is just great. I mean, Clint does great work. It's at Liberty Lock Pod on Twitter?
Yeah, on X is at Liberty Lock Pod. I think it's at Liberty Lockdown on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify. You can just search Liberty Lockdown. You'll find it, I'm sure.
Yeah, you'll find it.
Thank you so much for having me on again, Tom. It's an honor. I want to tell you a quick story. Michael Malice so I went to Freedom Fest. So I'm in Palm Springs. Of course, I'm in Palm Springs with Michael Malice, like the the capital of gay stuff. But anyways, and I go through security, and Michael Malice is in front of me, and he goes through the security checkpoint thing, and apparently it triggers. So TSA pulls Michael Malice, the anarchist, aside, and they're groping him, they're filling him up, and I walk through, and I don't get stopped. So I just turn around and I stop and I watch it as Michael is getting patted down, and then afterwards I stop and I go, man, it's not every day you get to see like the guy known for being an anarchist become more of an anarchist, and right before your very eyes. He laughed, and then he took me out to dinner at the airport there because we were waiting for our flight. So good guy. That was the first time I got to have like a serious long-term conversation with him, and we talked a little bit about his scare quotes beef with you, and how there's this long-running joke about you guys not liking each other or whatever.
It's so great.
It's just great.
It is great. So I was told that at Freedom Fest, so Doc Dixon sent me text updates that he took a few swipes at me in his talk, and one of them had to do with he was holding up a book about the mentally retarded child, and then he had my face with it. I mean,
he told me about that at dinner. You just jogged my memory. I had forgot about that. Oh God, so funny.
I mean, I'm so lucky in so many parts of my life. I mean, I can't tell you how happy I am to have the friends I have.
For sure.
It really is something else. All right, Clint Russell, thanks a million, and everybody else, thank you for listening. And I hope to see you with me and with Dave Smith and with so many people from our movement at Ron Paul's 90th birthday party, the great barbecue we're having in Lake Jackson. You're going to be there too, Clint?
Yeah, yep, I'll be there.
You're coming?
It's going to be great.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Yeah. Oh, that's great.
They sent me the invite, and I'm doing it. So it's going to be. I can't miss it. I mean, he's the guy. It's his 90th. Let's do it.
Yeah. Oh, so Clint's going to be there too. Oh, so there's no reason not to go, guys. And if you're going to say, oh, but it'll be too hot in Texas that time. Well, we're all a bunch of babies too. That's why we're having it indoors, having the barbecue indoors. So ronpaulbbq.com is the website. You go there right away, ronpaulbbq.com, and we'll see you there. All right. So long, everybody. See you tomorrow.
Make yourself and those you love less vulnerable to the regime, both mentally and physically. Get more forbidden information at tomsfreebooks.com, and be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you listen. See you next time.
Like the sound of The Tom Woods Show? My audio production is provided by Podsworth Media. Check them out at podsworth.com.